sacred harmony, where we tune into healing that honors both science and soul. Today's guest, Glen Lubbert, is revolutionizing the wellness conversation. As the CEO of Stamina Lab, he's helping people move beyond hacks and shame based self help to a gentler, more effective path, building from what's already working. If you have ever felt stuck in cycles of self improvement, this episode might just set you free. Welcome to the show, Glenn. It's an honor to have you.
So thank you for having me on. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Mhm. So, Glenn, your work begins with a powerful reframe. You're not broken. Why is that such a radical and necessary shift in health coaching today?
Yes, that's a great question, and it really comes down to the fact that we spend so much time with looking back and saying what do we do wrong? How do we solve this problem by looking at the root cause of what happened to us? And in reality, that really doesn't matter. It's really about where we want to go and what does it mean for us? What does that define? How does that define us? And that's really what makes this radical approach so interesting and powerful for behavior change for your health is that you're looking back and for evidence of when things have been going well for you and building on that.
Right. And how does this mindset open up better results than the typical fix yourself approach?
Yes, because when you look back, you ask yourself questions about when has this been less of a struggle for you? And when is the time that you handled something like this more easily? Whenever you look at back in in your past, in the troubled past, you're looking for ways where you had the resources and the inner skills to be able to meet these challenges and looking for those rather than the times when you messed up and you thought you did poorly, because that's just not going to help. That's not going to help you move forward. You're looking for evidence of when you were doing things just a little bit better, like when you managed to keep things going in tough times and that helped, or what strategies and routines that worked in the past for you, even just a little bit better. And when you see those, like you get those evidence, it's like self-efficacy that says, oh, you know what, I can do this. I can do those things.
And it's amazing how quickly transformation begins when we stop fighting ourselves and start supporting ourselves instead.
Yeah, we often beat ourselves up so much about what we did wrong and spend so much of our energy in this problem talk of, oh, why did I do that? Or and spend emotions in that negative emotion time period. And really, when you go back and you do that, and there's a great example I have, and I love this story, is like when someone comes to us, and what we do a lot of coaching around healthy eating. It's, that's a big deal for everyone, and we all can eat less sugar, and so that comes into play a lot. And so one of the examples I have where we have a client comes to us and says, oh yeah, well, since the last time we met, i had I had a half a pint of ice cream. And traditionally you'd be like, oh, you had a half a pint of ice cream. Well, what caused you to have that half a pint of ice cream? And you go back and like, oh well, my ex-wife called, and then we got in a fight about the kids. And then after that, I was just feeling so upset, so I grabbed that ice cream and I just had a half a pint of ice cream. And so I have to relive that entire experience all over again. And so I feel negative emotions again. And emotions create behaviors. Emotion creates habits. And if you have negative emotions, you're not creating the behaviors you want. You're stuck in that troubled past. And so what we ask is, what do you want instead, or where do you want to go? So in the example of the ice cream, instead of saying, okay, well, what caused that? And then traditionally you'd be like, okay, let's find something else you would do when your ex-wife calls and you get in that fight. This is what you're going to do instead. Okay, that does make sense. But now I spent all this time on this negative emotion. I've got a solution just for that one instance. But then something else could happen, and something else could happen, and now I have to have a replacement for all these other instances where I have this negative thing happen to me. It's kind of whack-a-mole. You're just trying to find a new replacement for all these different things. But instead, we say, okay, you had a half a pint of ice cream. What kept you from eating the full pint of ice cream? Or why did you stop at the half a pint? What do you know about yourself that's keeping you from eating that whole pint of ice cream. And now you're looking at this in a much different situation. You're like, oh, you know what? At that point, I realized, I shouldn't be having as much ice cream, and that I want to just have a little bit of it. And I got that taste. And we just ask all these reasons. Well, what other reasons what that you only had half the pint of ice cream? And you just keep on listing those. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, a second, you know what? I actually did a really big thing here. I only had half a pint of ice cream, and I did all these amazing things to keep me from having that full pint or even having more. When you do this and you reinforce all the things that you did well in the past, the next time something happens, it could be your ex-wife calling and that situation that I gave you, or it could be any other challenge that came up. You've now reminded yourself, hey, I've done hard things in the past, and this is how I handled that situation. I remember that, hey, I'm strong and resourceful in these situations, and this is exactly what I did. And it really transforms that whole issue of, having that half pint of ice cream. You could insert anything you want to have in there, whatever thing you think you're beating yourself up for, whatever you did that wasn't living up to "I'm not good enough" standards. You just have just changed that, and you're now, and like I said, emotions create behaviors. Now you're in positive emotions, and positive emotions drive us towards the behaviors we want to have.
Definitely. And you talk about 8 magic words that can shift our self talk. Can you share them and how they change the game?
Yeah, the 8 magic words, they are powerful. And oftentimes we get into this conversation with ourselves where they're all or nothing thinking, like, I'm a failure, I'm not good enough. Those are the big things. I always mess things up. I'm not good at insert your thing. I'm not good at public speaking. I'm not good at writing. I'm not good at sports. I'm not good at whatever you're saying. And what we use is these 8 magic words to transform that conversation in your head. It just cracks the door open a little bit, so that way you have a little bit more ideas of possibilities of what you could do. So the 8 magic words are right now, so far, not yet, and at least. Right now, so far, not yet, at least. So for example, I'm not I'm not good at playing pickleball, which is actually true. I've just started playing pickleball. So I'm not good at pickleball. Instead of just being a whole statement and that's my identity, and I'm stuck in that box, I'm not good at pickleball. If I say I'm not good at pickleball right now, that just cracks open a little bit of, oh wait, actually there's a room and opportunity for me to grow and for me to have the opportunity to be good at it. And so it just transforms that fixed mindset that we would be into a little bit of more of a open growth mindset right now. Or so far I haven't been able to solve this problem. So far, that means there is an opportunity in the future for me to be able to, or not yet. And at least is one of my favorite. When you find yourself beating yourself up. Well, at least I only had half a pint of ice cream. At least I dot dot dot. All these tools are really helpful in allowing us to just switch from that fixed negative talk that we have in ourselves to just having a little bit more conscious self-talk that we can do better. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And those are amazing.
Yeah, it just allows you to be more kind and gentle with yourself, so that you don't say anything that you wouldn't say to others. Just allowing to have that door open for new hope, new possibilities, and change. It's all about having that opportunity for hope. So if you're like I said, if you're stuck in the thinking about the dreaded past of things that are not working, you're asking yourselves again resource questions that I said before. When you've been doing this less of a struggle for you, or looking for those times when you've done things well, or done things at least a little less problematic. So that, like I said, having only that half a pint of ice cream. But if you're looking in the future, and you're worried about the future, you start to ask yourself questions that tell you where you want to go. What difference will that make? You really needed to think about the future in a way that gives you possibility. So, how will I know this new approach that I'm going to working is working for me? What will what will I notice that tells me I'm starting to do things to get better? What might be different in a few weeks' time? Suppose things are improving gradually. What's the next sign that the small sign, even the smallest thing that I'll see progress that I am expecting? Or what would our, and sometimes we can't see this ourselves. So we can ask the questions like, what would our colleagues or our friends or our loved ones notice that's different about me when doing that preferred future? It's all about asking yourself, where do you want to go and what difference will that make? Lots of times we get stuck in this moment where we're saying, oh well, I don't want to do this and I can't do this and I don't want to do that. I have this metaphor where you're getting to a cab. Some people would, now with the Uber we don't get in cabs very often, but most of us have been in a cab at least one time. So you get in the cab and you're sitting in there and the cab driver, okay, where do you want to go? And you say, well, I don't want to go over there because I like that, and I don't want to go over there because I did that in the past and then that didn't work out. I don't want to go over there because that makes me upset, and I don't want to go over there. And the cab driver is like, okay, that's great, but where do you want to go? Because I need to drive you to where you want to go. And that's kind of what you have to do with yourself whenever you get stuck in this troubled past or the dreaded future. You need to ask yourself, okay, wait, where do I want to go? And this is where mindfulness comes into play. It's about noticing yourself thinking that and be like, okay, let me take a breath and say, okay, where do I want to go? Because when you take action, that moves you out of that dreaded past or the anxiety of the future. Because now you're into action mode and you say, okay, what's the smallest thing I could do right now that will move me in that direction? Does that land here for you? And does that have you ever been in a cab?
Yeah, that's great. And what happens in the brain or the body when we make this simple shift?
Well, you're really looking at your nervous system shifting. That's why the mindfulness of taking a breath and noticing, okay, what I need to calm myself to create that space. You're really shifting your nervous system from the fight or flight mode to the point where you have some calm, the parasympathetic part of the nervous system, to be able to be calm enough to give yourself space to ask yourself, where do I want to go? And what difference will that make for me? And you're literally giving your mind more options. When you're in that fight or flight stage, your brain is actually tightening up. It's like, okay, I have to solve this problem. And when you're trying to solve that problem, you're you're in a fixed mindset. You're like, okay, I'm just focused on this one thing. I got to solve this problem. But when you use those magic words like right now, so far, not yet, at least, you're taking that breath. You're asking yourself, okay, now where do I want to go? And what's one thing that will notice that I'm moving in that direction? When you ask yourself that question, you're actually opening up your your brain a bit. Your brain's going from a constricted space to an open space, and you're allowed to have more synapses happening in your brain, and that creates more creativity. You can come up with so many more possibilities and solutions that aren't just about that one problem that you're trying to solve. This is why this "you're not broken" is so powerful. You have a solution in you. There's many paths to the same river. So say you want to work out and you want to be healthier, and so you ask yourself, okay, well, I'm going to go to the gym, and that's going to make me healthy. Well, on some days it could be raining or it could be snowing. You're not up to going to the gym, and you're like, okay, well, that goes out my program. But when there's many paths to that same river, it's like, okay, I'm still want to be a healthy person. What's something I could do, even the smallest thing that I could do that could get still show me that I am being that healthy person. So like, oh, today maybe it's just parking further away from the grocery store. So I walk further. Okay, no, well, that's evidence that I did something that was still being healthy, or I went for a walk, or even you can like I said, you can come up with infinite number of ideas when you shift your body with that breath and say, okay, wait, how can I still show up and be that healthy person that I want to be?
It's like giving ourselves permission to be in progress, and not perfection. And that feels so relieving.
Yeah, it really is, and you're right. I love that you're giving yourself permission. I really love that, because we can just change how we're thinking that it's saying at least I'm doing this, and that just like it just takes away that it's like I mean I don't know if you get to even when I say that I mean, you say it too like oh at least I just like I feel the weight coming off of me when I say that.
Yeah. And your approach also flips the script on sleep. What's the difference between restless and rested? And how do we move towards true recovery?
So sleep, that's one of my favorite topics. And what comes up with this, and this is like again the at least question out of the eight magic word phrases, is oftentimes when we're working with clients, they say, "Oh, I have trouble falling asleep," and so they are saying, "Okay, I gotta get out of bed until I'm sleepy," or they look at the alarm clock and they're stuck there, like, "Oh, I'm gonna be tired tomorrow morning." And when you shift your thinking from getting, "I need to get 8 hours sleep," to, "You know what, I'm resting right now." This is that's there's a difference there, like, okay, at least I'm getting rest. Okay, I might be a little tired, and tomorrow, and what will happen is I'll be tired, I'll probably go to bed, and feel and sleep great the next night, but at least I'm getting rest. At least I'm getting a recovery. And that shift often just relaxes you enough that you actually fall back to sleep because you're like, okay, this is not about I'm not trying to get this 8 hours of sleep. That's not the goal. The goal is rest and recovery, like you said. And so when you shift your mind and say, oh, at least I'm getting rest. Again, it's at least it's that every time I say it, I feel that weight coming down. At least I'm getting rest. So okay, that's fine. At least I'm getting rest. I'm going to just lay here and rest. And then when you do that, again, that emotional perfectionism, as you were saying, and trying to be perfect goes away. And your nervous system relaxes enough that you're like, oh, right. Yes. At least I'm getting, and then you doze off.
100%. And is it more about mindset than melatonin?
Yeah, oh, I love that. More about my mindset. Can I use that? That's great. Mindset versus melatonin. Yeah, this is such about mindset. It's just shifting that a mindset. There's so much what we can do for ourselves is just shift our mindset. We have, the anytime you find yourself in that when you're giving yourself that self talk and the mindset around fixed perfectionist structures, that's the opportunity to say, wait a second, I don't have to think this way. You can just change. You can change. I don't want to say just change your mind because it is challenging. At the same time, um, it's not rocket science here. Like I said, those eight magic word phrases are really powerful to be able to just shift that mindset from, you know, I always procrastinate on everything. I never do things on time to I haven't done it yet. Or so far I haven't gotten to this thing on time. So it's just shifting that mindset to saying, you know what, I can do this. I've done things like this in the past. Like, okay, for example, being perfectionist or procrastinating on something, you don't procrastinate on everything. There's times when you get things done. Looking at those times and saying, okay, what was I doing in those situations? How was I getting things done there? And you being able to use that in a different time. It's just so powerful, that mindset shift.
Yeah, and so many people treat rest like a reward, and your method makes it sound more like a birthright.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, it's getting rest is different than sleeping. And we all sometimes they say I'll sleep when I die. Well, yeah, you literally are gonna die earlier if you don't take care of yourself and recover. And when you're looking at it as rest and recovery, it shifts that from that again, that oh, I have to get 8 hours of sleep is like, okay, how do I get some recovery in here into my life, after, yes, it's a recovery every day when we go go to sleep, but there's micro recoveries we need throughout the day. There's macro recoveries we need throughout the year. Like, okay, we do need to take some time off during the year to recover and recharge. We need to take some time off every week. That's why Sunday is the rest day, because you want to have that built into a cycle. Every day we have some rest, or every hour we have some rest, every week we have some rest, every year at least we have a little bit of a vacation rest. So just building those into a routine. Yeah, it is your birthright to do it. It's really because you're evolutionarily designed to have that recovery to be able to perform at your best and show up for the people you want to be. And I think it's a way to frame it too, is how do you want to show up for the people you love in your life?
Absolutely. And you said that root cause thinking often keeps people stuck. That feels counterintuitive. Can you explain what you mean?
Yeah, because yeah, as I was saying before, like when you go down that root cause uh analysis route, you're looking to solve the problem. Okay, but your solution is only going to come from the problem area. And when you talk about what's happening physically in your body, when I go back and look at that root cause analysis, one, I have the negative emotions, because okay, something didn't work. And emotions drive behaviors. When you have a negative emotion, you're going to procrastinate on it. You're not going to want to be doing it. And so you have that negative emotion. You also have a constricted brain, because it's laser focusing on that root cause of why didn't it work in that situation right there. And it limits your possibility. It physically limits your possibility because your brain's constricted down there, and your solution is only going to come from that problem. But when we ask, what do you want instead? Where do you want to go? And what difference will that make? When you say what difference that make, that's starting to get into your values, and what's important to you. And like I said, there's many paths to the same river. So if the root cause was, okay, I didn't get to the gym. Why am I not going to the gym? What's not working with going to the gym? Now the only problem I'm trying to solve is this gym problem. When really what we're asking is, what do you want? I want to be healthy. And what difference will that make for you? Well, I'll be able to do more things I want to do with my friends and my family. I'll be able to have more energy. When you start listening all those things out, okay, now I'm not at these positive emotions, not on this why I didn't go to the gym problem. I'm at these positive emotions of, oh yeah, I'm going to be able to do all that. And so there's many paths to the same river, as I was saying. So now you're like, okay, instead of the gym being my fixation on it, it's like, oh, I want to be a healthy person. So now there's like lots of different possibilities. Our brain gets so creative. I was talking to someone, a client we had, and they came up with a solution where they said, I said, okay, well, when are you happy with this thing? So, "Oh, when I'm cracking up with my friends, and something that I could never have come up with. That's why with our coaching, we're not telling you what to do. You're coming up with these. We're asking these questions of, when did you feel like this? When did it work for you? And the ideas that people come up with are just so fascinating and so unique to their perspective. And so the root cause is, again, it's constricting you. It's preventing you from coming up with so many much more creative solutions. And people have so much more joy in this solution focused process that we approach, that we coach in at Stamina Lab.
Mm-hmm. And what's a better first step when trying to make a change?
The first step is, as I said, where do you want to go? And what difference will that make for you? And keep drilling down. Keep asking yourself, what difference will that make for me? And what difference will that make for me? Because you keep getting deeper and deeper into what's intrinsically important and what makes your heart sing. And when you first you ask that, that's the first step, is where do I want to go? And then you ask, okay, well, what do I have? When in the past have I done something like this, or what's things I do have that can work for me. So if we go back to being healthy again, instead of, it has to be, okay, you should do this and you should do that. Like, okay, well, I want to be healthy. What do I have? I'm like, oh, I've been happy when I've gone for walks around the block with my partner, I do actually have a pair of running shoes. What do I have? So where do I want to go? Where and what do I have? And what's one thing I could do? And this I think is the most important for your listeners to hear is in the next 24 hours, what's one thing I can do, even the smallest thing that would tell me that I'm on the path to being that person that I described. That I don't even have to get there. Just what would tell me and give me evidence that I'm on that path, even the smallest thing.
Mm-hmm. And that shift from analyzing problems to activating strengths feels like a revolution in how we heal.
Oh, yeah, I love that question. Yeah, I mean, because you're really looking at like you said, you're not broken. There's nothing to fix. The person you want to be is already inside you, and I would argue that you are already on that path. The fact that you're listening to this podcast, that's evidence that you are on the path to that person you want to be. There's nothing to fix. You're already doing it. And I would even say there's I wouldn't say there's nothing to heal, but there's uh like I said, you're already on that path. You're already on the path to healing. You're already on the path to the person you want to be in. And you just continue to notice, to be mindful of when you are noticing that you are on that path, there's lots of things you're going to be doing throughout the day that's going to tell you, oh, you wait, this is actually, I'm doing something that's telling me I'm on the path. The more you build up that evidence, the more it steamrolls to be more and more and more. And the majority of your day then becomes that you're on that path and not dwelling on the times when you weren't on that path, but looking at the times when you were on that path or where you weren't were on the path even just a little bit. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Totally. And you don't need to be fixed, you need to be heard, supported, and seen for the strengths already alive within you. Thank you, Glenn, for reminding us that real change doesn't come from shame, it comes from self trust. And to all our listeners, start where you are, speak to yourself with kindness, and build forward with what you've already got.